inshallah.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen, wa salatu wa salam wa Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Allahu Akbar, la ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar, wa lillahi alhamd. As we enter and we're in the first 10 days of the Hajj, and we're eagerly awaiting Hajj, we're eagerly awaiting Al-Adha, and we're eagerly for our qurbani and sacrifices to be given. Alhamdulillah, it's a very good time to reflect on the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam, the sacrifices involved, and what can we take from that for ourselves and our lives here and now, as people, as individuals, as a ummah, as a globe, as a humanity. Alhamdulillah, inshallah, today we'll be talking about some aspects of Ibrahim alayhi salam's life that link closely to the season of Hajj, what's coming up, and then we can open up that discussion. So I'll be hopefully laying the floor down, but a lot of the discussion, inshallah, we'll all be involved, and let's open this up. So the main aspect of Ibrahim alayhi salam's life, or in particular to do with the Hajj, I want to focus on today is the three moments when Ibrahim alayhi salam was facing Shaitan. Shaitan tried to tempt him, gave him an alternative, tried to get Ibrahim alayhi salam off the way of Islam, and how Ibrahim alayhi salam responded. The Khalil Allah, he responded by throwing stones. And this is a famous aspect, an ibadat aspect of Hajj. So the 3 points at which Ibrahim alayhi salam threw the stones are known today as Jamrat al-Ula, Jamrat al-Wasta, and Jamrat al-Kubra. And the main point is that at each of them intervals, Shaitan is doing everything he can to take the ummah, the global ummah, non-Muslims and Muslims away from Islam. The believers, Shaitan wants them to go away from Islam, compromise Islam, water down Islam, and with the non-believers, keep them away from Islam, get them to fight Islam, go against Islam. So the first aspect is the Jamrat al-Ula, i.e. let's talk about in today's world, what am I facing as a trick of Shaitan? What are we facing as a trick of Shaitan, or a something that he's telling us, don't go down this particular road of Islam, try a different road. This is Shaitan's modus operandi. Don't go down that road, even if you want to go down that, but you don't go there. And then the worst case scenario is when you absolutely abandon it, and you abandon it with smiles on your faces, and you don't want it, and you want to belittle it. That is the worst case scenario. But as a minimum, Shaitan wants us to halt ourselves from going down that road. And what is that one? And this is in the context of what's going on around the world. And alhamdulillah, there's a conference coming up in July from Al-Hind to Al-Aqsa. So let's start off with what's going on in that region of Al-Hind. The first thing that the Shaitan wants us to divert us from, move us away from, is this direct occupation that's happening in Kashmir. These violations that are happening in India, the assaults that are happening on our brothers, our sisters, our mothers, our masjids, our homes of our brothers and sisters in Kashmir and in India. It's known to everyone that Modi is anti-Muslim. That's his track record. That's his history. That's what took him to power. That's what kept him in power. Is this anti-Muslim, anti-Islam sentiment vibe. And not only has it been a sentiment, but it has been in massacres, in blood being spilled, in homes being burnt, in genocide, in villages being burnt to the ground, in cries and tears of our mothers and daughters, in the creation of many, many orphans. And not only that, in Kashmir, it's led to a direct occupation over millions and millions of people, millions and millions of homes, millions and millions of our daughters, our mothers, our grandmothers, our honors are being humiliated. And like Shaitan tried to do with Ibrahim al-Islam, and he failed with Ibrahim al-Islam, he has failed on this issue, is to say that, you know what, let's leave this issue of Kashmir and the Indian Muslim to them. We need to think about economics. We need to talk about collaboration with India. We need to work together with India. And alhamdulillah, the same way Ibrahim al-Islam turned around and threw them stones, the Ummah has turned around and thrown it back at those who proposed this. So we have got nothing to do with collaboration. We've got everything to do with our honor. That we've got nothing to do with putting economics at the top. We've got everything to do with putting La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah at the top. And this is a stone that the Ummah collectively, in unison, with a big hand, has thrown towards this issue and is standing up for this issue. And inshallah, in this conference, we're going to keep highlighting it, keep discussing it, keep raising it, so that the stone gets more and more power behind it. It gets more and more force behind it. It causes more and more reverberations. So inshallah, I'll open that up as the first point of discussion. So please, anyone who wants to make a comment on that, and then we can talk about the second and third stone, inshallah.
Jazakallah khairan. I think this analogy between Ibrahim alayhi salam reaction to response to Shaitan is really nice. With the examples you brought, and that's I think that's the way we should be always thinking, not looking at the incident of Islam as just history. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran and to Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so that we can benefit from it throughout the human history, not just the history. Jazakallah.
I think, Brother Shani, I think you're correct in your point that over time, people try to make things normal, which are completely abnormal in Islam. Like, when we talk against occupation, whether that's in Palestine, Kashmir, or anywhere, Afghanistan, Iraq, or any of these lands, or even simpler things like this idea of we are one ummah, we believe in Islam, in Islam is correct, is a truth. These kind of things over time, it's kind of get melted down to, oh yeah, let's just leave those things aside. Let's concentrate on our own matters in the UK or whatever country we're living in. And over time, you start changing our behavior and feelings where certain things become acceptable. So I think you're right that as an ummah, it's good that we haven't lost track of certain things in what's happening around us, like Kashmir, like Palestine, because those would be a dangerous time once, as an ummah, we accept that they're not really our issue. Jazakallah.
Alhamdulillah, I think this is actually also a good point that we are not losing connection with the rest of the ummah, especially this day and age where we have all the means to stay in connection and raise the voice, be the voice of the sufferings of the rest of the ummah around the globe, because we have all this technology. So if you're not going to use it right now to remain connected and to know what's happening, to make dua and do whatever we can, then we would be really failures as an ummah, and we'll be accountable for that. Alhamdulillah that the ummah is actually using it in the correct way. We just need to sometimes remind ourselves to do more and more of that.
Absolutely. Okay, if there's no further comments on this point, inshallah, I'll move on to the second point. And inshallah, in this whole discussion, there'll be 3 points. reflecting the three moments that the Khalil Allah, Ibrahim alayhi salam, was facing Shaitan. So Jamrat al-Ula we've done, Jamrat al-Wusta, i.e. the second one, the middle one. And this is again an issue to do with what's happened in India recently, but it seems to be a global phenomenon. It's not just restricted to that region, and that is the violation and the honor of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Islam. And we've seen recently the BJP, Modi's party, national spokeswoman Nupur Sharma. She came out and insulted the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam on live television. Everyone's social media feed is full of Muslims being humiliated, Muslims on the ground being forced to chant words that go against Islam, words that are shirk in Islam, and not just forced by words, but by sticks, by mobs, by knives. This is a huge dishonoring of the Muslims and Islam. And further to that, we're seeing mosques, masjids being knocked down. We're seeing masjids where groups of people are chanting anti-Islamic slogans outside the masjid. We're seeing women being told no education unless you take your hijab off. No education unless you do self-mutilation of your own honor. This is what's going on there. And what's going on in Kashmir is going to be a lot worse. What's going on there, we've seen the videos, we've seen the headlines of, our mothers are being blinded with pellet bullets. We're seeing how their deen is being mocked. And that's not only in India, but we all the way see it. Let's go to the other side, to the occupied land, where that false entity is violating the blessed land of Masjid al-Aqsa in the most blessed of months of Ramadan. Openly, freely, not undercover, not hiding, not coming from behind a stone, but very openly, with no qualms, with no fear in their face, no fear in their voices that we're going to get a backlash from those who can do a backlash. They're going in with their boots, they're knocking women out the way, they're pushing them, knocking them out the way. Elderly women, young children being grappled with and killed, made disabled, bruised, thrown in prison, without even, and they are doing it without any fear or moment that there'll be a repercussion. And this is, again, like we see on this issue of the book, of this video, this film, whatever you want to call it, called Lady of Heaven, another attempt to dishonor. What were we told? What? So we have to be sensitive to what you like to be seen on cinema. Come on, guys. And now are we being dictated by what your feelings are, that we can't watch a video because you're getting hurt? You guys need to accept that we're going to watch things that you don't like. We're going to say things that you don't like. What is your issue with it? And alhamdulillah, the ummah again is in unison in throwing the stone towards Shaitan and saying, there's no way. Our beloved is Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is more honorable to us than ourselves. Our daughters are saying, Allahu Akbar, when they say to him, take your hijab off. Our brothers are saying that we're going to stand and protect our masjids. The ummah is raising its voices massively when Masjid al-Aqsa is being bombed, tear gas, shot at. The ummah is reacted in the most fantastic way. And even with the Lady of Heaven, the Ummah has responded. That why is it that there are many things that you don't like to be said? There's gagging laws, there's libel laws, there's disclosure laws. People can't say what they like. We had the Johnny Depp whole affair. He was saying, I don't like what she wrote, so I want to be compensated millions and millions of pounds. And Muslims have been told, yeah, if your feelings are hurt, it doesn't matter. There's contradictions. The Ummah has seen past it. It's seen past the lives, whether it's Wagatha Christie or whether it's some false narrative that's created that you can't say against certain groups of people. The Ummah said, hold on. We are in unison that this violation against Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, these violations of masjids, these violations of Masjid al-Aqsa is not acceptable. Verbal occupation, mind occupation, physical occupation is unacceptable. Alhamdulillah, I see a brother on my Facebook feed, the amount of masjids that he gets built, sponsored through Muslims in places across the world. Wow. It's massively inspiring. He's in this country, guys. Here's an update from the masjid built here. Hey guys, I'm flying here. Here's an update from this masjid here. They can, try to knock down the masjids. With every one masjid, there's another 10. No problem. And that is why, because the love of the ummah it has, and though Shaitan is trying to say, hey guys, put your head down. They're too strong. Guys, put your head down. We need to work with India in solving the problem. Guys, you know what? This issue of Al-Aqsa, just forget about it. Palestine, just forget about it. This honoring of the Prophet, you know what? They love freedom of speech too much. The Ummah said, hold on, we're going to throw it back at you. So that's the second point, inshallah. I'll open it up there for everyone to discuss and add comments and anything they want to say, inshallah.
I just wanted to add a point that in this idea about insulting and everything, I think as an ummah, I think it's nicer that I think we are taking it to a next level now, because the people who insult Islam or prophets or things like this, they say, oh, this is part of our way of life, and this is a sign of a civilized society that we can insult. Now, alhamdulillah, as an ummah, I think people, our brothers and sisters around the world are getting the act together and saying, hold on a second, is this really a mark of a civilized society that you can go around insulting people? Is that really a way of life that we should be copying? And alhamdulillah, I think people are now realizing that actually this idea of liberalism, that you can just insult people, is that really a good way to bond and unite people? Surely it's going to create problems in society. And the fruits of this idea of liberalism, we are now seeing, where that just as one point, the lack of respect within society, it is not really existent. And for these people to champion that, oh yeah, insulting people is part of our way of life, and it's actually the way of life that everyone should be adopting, and is the way of life that's the way forward. I think the Ummah is realizing, no, this is not the way forward. And I think even non-Muslims are realizing this is something is not right here. It doesn't match the human nature that you can go around insulting people. And alhamdulillah, this is why we have Islam. Islam as a way of life, just on this basic point, that it doesn't allow people to be insulted. Even as Muslims, we are not even allowed to insult other people's gods that they believe in. This is not the type of society that Islam produces. And I think people are now realizing that, look, there's certain, these ideas that people champion as the way forward, as the only way forward, as the civilized ideas, actually they lead to a very backward society. And Jazakallah.
No, I mean, I think you made a fantastic point that, the last few years, the West has been grappling with how do you deal with fake news, quote unquote. Like, people can't go around saying what they want. They can't go creating content that they want. We need fact checkers. We need, Facebook needs to be able to delete stuff. It needs to ban people. It needs to ban organizations. Twitter needs to have a way of fact checking. The whole discussion has been like, wow, how are we going to control it? On one side, and then on the other side, when it comes to the Prophet ﷺ, it's a case of, guys, say what you want. No fact checking. And then it comes into the category of fiction. Do what you want. And on another side, you got a desperate attempt because they realize it causes chaos. But when it comes to Rasulullah ﷺ in Islam, that's fine. That chaos is okay. And this duplicity, this double standard, is not by accident. It's deliberate and it's designed.
I just want to add one point to this one of that insulting doesn't create an harmony in the society. There is I realize discussing to some brothers is that there were certain ideas that they were pushed and were kind of almost melted into the ummah, like ideas of democracy, for example. Okay, that alhamdulillah the ummah is slowly realizing that actually democracy, we don't believe in democracy, and we shouldn't bring it whenever we want to demand for anything or raise awareness for anything. We don't even want to use that word, because that's about saying that Allah has no importance in the society, right? So democracy just say the human knows better. So even if you say want to say, for example, that India or Israel has no right to do things against a Muslim because this is just not right. We don't want to say that. We don't want it because of democracy. Yeah, alhamdulillah, the Ummah is realizing that that's not the way forward. That actually that will tomorrow or the day after will be used against us. So we become, alhamdulillah, we're becoming slowly more clear cut in saying things like, we don't want this because this is against our beliefs. We don't want it because this, and we become sharper and sharper, more pure, we can say, even in our words that we use. And that's, alhamdulillah, it's really good. Alhamdulillah, may Allah make it even, help us to fasten this process of purifying our words and our thoughts. I mean,
Um, okay, so I'm conscious of time, so I'll swiftly move on to the third point, and that's symbolizing the Jamrat al-Kubra, the last stoning of Shaitan by Ibrahim alayhi salam. And that's a big one, and that is this is known as lines in the sand, but I think it's chains in the sand, chains that are holding us down, chains that are artificially dividing us, and that is this Westphalian inspired nationalism. Whether we go from Al Hind, actually on the other side of that, Burma, Rohingya, and even further from that, Xinjiang, the Muslims there, to Bangladesh, to the Muslims in India, Kashmir, Pakistan, the inflation going there, the Muslims in Sri Lanka can't fill the petrol in their cars, to the Muslims in Afghanistan who have just about got through the 20-year occupation, to the Muslims of Iraq that are still living in the broken, fractured homes from the invasion, going to the Muslims of Syria that are still living in refugee camps, to Yemen that are being artificially divided, to Egypt, to Morocco. We can go on, that this big shaitanic concept that is being forced on the Ummah of nationalism. Westphalian inspired, nothing to do with Islam. And that is a big shaitan, and it needs a big stone to remove it. And the Ummah has the stone in its hand. The Ummah is united with the floods in Bangladesh. The whole Ummah is looking and worrying and praying and giving and supporting and investigating what's going on there. When the Muslims in Rohingya were being massacred, the whole Ummah was in tears. Though there was thousands of miles dividing them, the color of the skin was not the same, the color of the eyes was not the same, but their hearts were united, and no chain of nationalism could take that away. And at the moment, we see Qurbani happening. And everywhere you go to, the first question isn't, brother, where are you from? Oh, you're from Pakistan, here you go, your Qurbani is going to Pakistan. You're from Africa, your Qurbani is going to go to Africa. You're from Bangladesh, your Qurbani is going from Bangladesh. No, it's where do you Where do you want to give it to? Where have you seen the suffering? Where it's affected you? Here you go, brother, I want to give it here. The Buddha mentioned is building masjids all over Africa. There's no nationalism, there's no, oh, I'm only building it there because I'm from there. No, none of that at all. We're seeing the month of Hajj, and everyone that's been and everyone that watches the transmission of Hajj, never is there violence of one nationality against another nationality. Never is there a need to separate one nationality against another nationality. Why? Because the Ummah's heart is one. The Ummah's feelings are one. The Ummah's unity is one. The Ummah's direction is one. Its vision is one. When Al-Aqsa is violated, the Muslims in India are crying, they're being violated. When the Muslims in India are being violated, the Muslims in Al-Aqsa are crying because even though they're being violated. When there's violation happening anywhere in the world, the Muslims from the furthest part of the world who have never been to that part of the world, who have never spoken to a Muslim from that part of the world, are rushing, are finding out, how can I get money over there? Who can I send it to? Where's the best way? I want to trust the person because I want to make sure that money gets there. I want to support them. So this stone that's in their hand is being held back by those fake leaders. Why? Because, as an example, India gets 40%, 45% of India's energy needs. Nearly half of its energy needs comes from coal. And half of that coal it gets from a Muslim country called Indonesia. So 25% of its energy needs it gets from Indonesia. Crude oil, half of that it gets from Middle East, and that makes another 12.5% of its energy needs. So you're looking at more than a third, up to close to a half of India's total energy needs are coming from Muslim-controlled lands. But these fake governments that are in charge, that are implementing this nationalism, implementing these chains, these borders, are holding everything back. The Muslims in Bangladesh are suffering not because of floods, because of nationalism. That's the suffering is not from floods, it's from nationalism. The Muslims in Palestine, in Al-Aqsa, are not being violated and suffering because of that fake entity. It's because of the nationalism that's giving that fake entity its space. Whichever the Muslims in Sri Lanka are not suffering because of high petrol prices. They'll be suffering because of the fake entity that say, hey, you got nothing to do with this. This fake nationalism that's imposed, that's chains in the ground, is the one when that stone hits that and breaks that and unifies the ummah, then there is no stopping the ummah. So I'll open it up there for any discussion and comment, inshallah.
I think I don't know if I just got called away for a second, but this idea of nationalism, I can't remember what I was going to say now. In terms of even this idea of nationalism, I remember when we talked about freedom being an odd idea, which people say is the way forward, but it actually creates a lot of problems.
Mhm.
I mean, the more and more you think about nationalism, the more and more you realize this is not the way to unite people at all.
Mhm.
It's going to create continued problems forever. And now, especially this day and age, we're seeing the results of nationalism right in front of us. So in we see Zionism saying, oh, this land is for this kind of people. How is that a good way to unite people? In India, we're seeing the BJP parties using the same slogans, saying that this land is for Hindutva kind of idea. How's that going to melt people together? It's never going to have harmony between people. And then even these are the extreme examples, but we see it here in UK, like Boris Johnson, to get some support, he'll attack Muslim women, saying, oh, they look like letterboxes. It's to stigmatize the other people and to get some sort of support for yourself. And nationalism only unites people when there's like a foreign attack, foreign threat. and people make up a threat to get more support.
Yeah.
And the more you think about it, you realize this is not a way to unite people at all. It's actually a very
Yeah.
backward way. And alhamdulillah, again, Islam has a beautiful solution for the 21st century, for any century, that it
Mm.
unites people not based upon your color of your skin. And this is a much better way of solving world problems, creating harmony, and even creating solving problems in the world such as economic problems, global warming. You need like a, a response which is trans-border,
That's
and
right.
Islam provides that. So, alhamdulillah, Islam again, it shows us, alhamdulillah, should be something to be proud of. That Islam again shows us something, a way forward, which is a much more superior way of solving problems, and helps us re-question the things that we're told are normal. So, alhamdulillah, that's another good point. Jazakallah.
Well, I think, like you said, that Islam's trans-border issues, the Ummah's naturalness is to give, whether to Muslims and non-Muslims. A lot of, charities, food banks, soup kitchens, they run by Muslims for non-Muslims. A lot of the Qurbani, it's individual Muslims getting together. They're working trans-border. Which country? Pick your country. Take your pick. I know people, I got guys, they'll do the Qurbani, they'll send you the photo, they'll send you the video. They're already working trans-border. They're already working global. They're already doing Jummahs here for other parts of the world, the khutbah. So the Ummah has already decided what its future wants to be. And it's just the fake borders that are there with fake institutions, with fools with power, unfortunately, that are dictating the other half of the deal.
Jazakallah khairan. I think we are close to the end. And these final points we made are really important, because just one quick one. Remember last year when there was Al-Aqsa was raided by the Israelis. There were the brothers, the Ummah from Jordan, right? They were ready to come in, jump in and help the Ummah in Al-Aqsa.
Mm,
And only thing that was stopping them were the soldiers. And the
mm,
soldiers were told by the ordinary people that, why are you stopping us? Can't you see this? Don't you feel anything in your heart? And they were replying saying that, yes, we do, but we have been ordered. We have been ordered to don't allow you to go. We have been ordered to stop you. So that's actually a clear example of the Ummah wanting to be united, but there are these barriers created by Shaitan through these fake leaders that are in the Muslim world, unfortunately. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for us to unite the Ummah again as it should be, naturally. The Ummah is one deen, and naturally should be united without borders, with one single leader. So just remind all the brothers and sisters that inshallah there are conferences in London and Birmingham coming up for the week after the Eid on the 16th and 17th. Please get in touch with the brothers, and inshallah you can get a ticket, which is quite affordable. And inshallah that will help, just to get closer to the Ummah and raise their voice, be their voice. Jazakallah khairan, Brother Shani, and Jazakallah khairan to everyone attending this meeting. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless this meeting and accept our good deeds in this blessed 10 days and nights of Dhul Hijjah. Please remember the whole Ummah in your dua, and inshallah see you again next week. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.